In this video I will show you how I colored the image here behind me, which is a quintych of Convict Lake in Mammoth Lakes, California. We arrived here a couple of years ago for a weekend getaway, and when we arrived on Friday night there was no snow at all, but then it started snowing on Friday night, it snowed throughout all of Saturday, and then this is what it looked like on Sunday. This is one of my first images where I colored my black and white photos with oils. So the sky was painted in with opaque oils and the rest of the image was colored with transparent oil paint. The image is actually consists of 9 individual images that were all stitched together. So it actually gives a very wide angle view from all the way to the left all the way to the right. That's about 180 degrees. So it gives a very nice wide view of the lake. So I will show you how I colored it. Now that Puffy has explored my workplace, I'm making a mix of titanium white and phthalo blue, which I'm going to use for the sky. So this is opaque oil. I like to use opaque oil for the sky because if I use transparent oils, you see the brush strokes too clearly, and I want to have the sky a little bit of more of a uniform look. So I'm starting with the first piece here, and I'm adding the blue to this sky. I'm going from top to bottom, creating a slight gradient of blue. Here I'm taking the second piece, which I started on, as you can see, a little earlier, and I'm adding the same blue that I just created in this piece here. Now I'm checking when I should use the new blue that I mixed into the smaller piece that goes in front of it. Again, I'm checking one of the smaller pieces, and now it looks like it's time to also add the blue sky to these smaller ones that go in front. So I'll make a little mark where that paint needs to go. This is the middle piece of my quintych of Convict Lake. Now it's time to create some more paint. So I used titanium white and phthalo blue. I also add a little bit of liquin, not to make it transparent. It's only, I use very little, but I do it so that the paint dries a little faster. Like, it can take weeks for an oil painting to dry, but with liquin it could take like less than a day. And now that I get to the top of the mountain, I also need to be a little bit more careful, so I'm also using a smaller brush at this point. With the larger brush, I stay away from the mountain, and I'm going to take a smaller brush and do the parts that are really close to the mountain, where the sky like bunches up to the mountain, so I can be more precise. At this point, the sky is all done, and I'm going to move on to color the rest of the images. This is our dog Puffy. We took him with us to Convict Lake, and he actually loved the snow. He's a mix of a Shih Tzu and a Lhasa Apso, and I think it might be the Lhasa Apso in him that loved the snow so much. Now I am going to mix my first transparent paint to color the images. I'm mixing liquin with phthalo blue and a little bit of yellow to create aquamarine that I'm going to use only in the foreground of the lake, in which you can see the bottom of the lake. I'm starting with the large left panel, and later I will use a different kind of blue for the surface of the lake in the background. And here I'm adding that aqua transparent oil to the right panel. And this is the middle panel. I'm using a brush that's normally used only for acrylics, but because the liquid makes the paint so soft, I'm using that kind of brush and not a typical brush that you use for oil paint. I try to go around the reflections of the snow and just add that color to where you can see the bottom of the lake. For the rest of the lake, I'm using a regular phthalo blue that is thin with liquin, so it doesn't have that aqua look to it, but it's very subtle. Now that the water has been colored, I start coloring the rocks everywhere. And for this, I'm using an even smaller brush, and I thinned some burnt sienna with liquin. I use that same burnt sienna for the background, and it really makes the mountains pop now when you add that color here. And some of the little pebbles on the bottom of the lake will also get that burnt sienna added. Now I'm using that same blue that I used for the water in the background to add some color to the shadows on the mountain on the snow. It actually makes a big difference to add that blue to the shadows when you compare this to the original black and white photo. Now I'm adding some sap green mixed with a lot of liquin again to the evergreens in the background. This is the last color I'm going to use. The 5 pieces have now been colored and now they have to dry. It actually took about a week for them to be completely dry. After the pieces were dry, I added varnish to just disguise. These contain opaque layers of oil and therefore have a more matte finish than the rest of the image. As we have seen, these were colored with transparent oils, and because of the liquin, they have a more glossy finish. So to make the overall finish of the whole piece more consistent, the varnish gives the sky a more glossy finish. I let the varnish dry overnight. Now, the final step in finishing my quintych of Convict Lake is the framing. I join the boundwood floater frames with my underpinner, which shoots staples into the corners from the back of the frames. I then lay the stretched canvas pieces inside the frames and screw them to each other also from the back. Because all the 5 pieces hang separately, I created a template that has the locations of the hooks that go into the wall marked on it. I only have to make sure that the template is level. When the template is taped to the wall, I make small holes at the markings with the nails that go into the wall later.